Okay. Yes. Do you also see, Oscar, that we are live, or will at least for me it
Yes,
shows that we are
we're
live?
live.
Perfect. Cool. Yeah, welcome back to Honk Out. I don't have to introduce yourself because you've been with me the last week, and I think you liked it so much, so you came back, which is great. And also, I think we figured out after the last episode that there is some stuff that we haven't mentioned in the whole front-end universe, and we want to talk about it. And yeah, I think you're the best person for it. Do you want to explain what we are going to do in this episode?
Yes, of course. So last week we discussed a few things. It was mostly about client-side logic. So basically shipping JavaScript to the end user, and yeah, that involved using Hono. I think that's the thing that we sort of like landed on, which is probably like the best solution to get started for like a full stack approach. But there's like an aspect that we didn't discuss last week, which is using RPC. So basically, there's a situation where it's very common when you build like a full stack application that your front end like needs to consume some data on the back end. And often you will define like API routes for this. And then basically what RPC does is sort of like unifying that idea of like defining your API routes and making sure like that you have like proper type inference in the front end. And then yeah, happy days. That's basically what we're gonna do.
So I mean, it's ensuring basically type safety between both components, right? So that I can be sure that everything that comes from my front end is type conform with my back end.
Yes. It's basically how the HANA documentation describes it is allowed to sharing of the API specifications between the server and client. And I think in our case that will be type sharing. And Hono comes with an API that allows you to do so like easily.
Should we start on our backend side? So that's what I understand better than the front end. So we start looking into how we get this out of the backend to our front end. Is that a good starting point for you as well?
I think that's a good idea. Yeah. Let me share my screen. I think it's like a nice idea to, like last week we scaffolded like this new project for Hono. And I think it, with like the orange button, and we're gonna reuse that project to do a few fun things today. So defining some API routes and then like hooking that up in the front end.
Super cool, yeah.
All right. I'm gonna share my screen. And do entire screen.
There you are.
Infinite window. Okay.
Okay.
So,
And
can you see this properly, Nelle?
I can see it, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So the first thing I think we should do is like create like a server, or at least like start our server, and then go to our page and look at that. Zoom in a tiny bit.
That's where we stopped last week almost.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a button that actually works when you press it, that actually increments here. Now, what we're gonna do, because we're using Hono, like we discussed last week, is that Hono is using named routes. So what we're gonna do for our API, that's also adding named routes. And I think we're gonna do something with posts, right? So we want to like perhaps like load posts in the front end, and then also have like a form that allows you to I think we're just going to call them titles in this case, but then allows you to have an input form and then submit one, and then it gets added to a database, which we're going to mock today. We're not gonna do a full-fledged database. Let me start with creating the route API, and then I'm going to call it post. Posts, I think it's plural, is a bit better here.
So meaning here,
right, because
say it again. So post means we want to post to the backend, or we want to get posts from the backend to our front end?
Yeah, we want to get posts from the backend. So I think the idea is something to keep it like, yeah, like because we're a bit time constrained, to keep it like really simple, we're just gonna have like a simple data structure of posts. So I will show you in a second. So we're gonna start with creating, we're gonna call this an API, which is new Hono. And because we're in a Hono X project, Hono and everything is already installed. And then we say API get posts. This is not what I want, Copilot. So let's see.
Yeah, sometimes it's really accurate and sometimes it's like, okay.
Yeah, sometimes it's just like hallucinating, I guess.
Yeah, and then it's also annoying because then I don't know if you have the same when you see what it wants to type and then you think maybe it has typed it already and you have not tapped it in. Then I get really confused by it sometimes. So sometimes a really good helper and sometimes a really annoying. But this looks better. It looks like
this looks a whole lot better.
Yeah, that looks
so
like a
let's say we have some posts in our database, right? So that can be like an array, and then
by
it
post you
contains
mean
an
text,
object,
right? So you mean like
yeah, it's just text, right? So we have like, we add an ID. I think this is going to be a string, so I'm going to call it like ID1, ID2. Yeah, so basically this is going to be our our database today. So it's going to be light and simple. And then the moment we return, why is this return c.json?
Can you return the error as a JSON? I mean, there's JSON in the error, but what error do you get?
The instantiation is excessively deep and possibly infinite. That's what if we do this? That's really silly. Because this is basically shorthand for this. And now it's not an issue. Okay.
Interesting.
Anyway, funny time is over. Let's go back to our app. And then we just defined the API route. So we do API and then posts. And then, we didn't find it. And that's because we didn't return or export default API. We need to export it like any other API. And we still don't, we get an error. That's because, so this is a thing that I sometimes like trip over as well, because like we have named routes here, right? So the moment like from the root of our application, we have the first step here that says like API. So that means /API, and then the next one is /post. So this Hono API over here, this will work because like this will be appended to like where we are here in the folder structure. So if we go to posts.posts, this will work, but that's a bit silly because that's not what we want. We just want it on the
on the okay, that's good to know. Oh no, it's not.
Sorry, there was like a slash included still.
No, that's
okay,
cool.
So
that's what we want, right? That's the text
this
you
is
want
what
to
we
see
want.
there.
Yes. So I think the next step is like have our front end like consume this data from the API, right? So let's maybe like create like a component that contains a button, and the moment we click that button, it does like a fetch to the API, and the API returns the posts, and then we like we render those in the application. Let's call this one posts, and it's going to be an island component because this one is going to contain like logic that needs to be executed as JavaScript in the front end, and this island directory makes that possible. So like Hono X recognizes what the components inside here, and then hydrates the client side components for you, and therefore make them interactive in your browser. So we're going to call this component post, and we're going to use like a local state. This is not necessarily the right way to go. There are like libraries out there that sort of like solve all these issues, or at least like make your life a whole lot easier for doing this. But for the purpose of this demo, we're gonna go a bit old school React. Let's put it like that. There, and then we say we have a div, and this post, we're gonna map over it, and then we're gonna get some errors right now because it doesn't know what a post is. Oh no, it's not as const. For now, we're gonna say like we're gonna sort of like infer the type of these posts. So like TypeScript needs to know what is to be expected on this side. So we're gonna do that right now by just like simply saying like post is type of. Is this correct? No, posts is type of posts, and we need to export this type. And then we say posts. Okay. We have a naming conflict here, so I'm gonna, how should we call
the function?
Let's see. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna say, for now, I'm just gonna say this is post type. It's a bit verbose, but it makes it a tiny bit more like concise here. Now TypeScript knows what we're looping over, and as we defined in our well, I don't dare to call this schema, but this is our like data structure basically. So as we defined here, like each post has an ID and a title. TypeScript is now aware of that. Happy days. But yeah, as you can see here, like we're using a useState hook here with like an initial value of an empty array. So if we add this post component, we need to go to index.ts, tsx. I'm gonna put like a ruler in between, so it's easier to distinguish. Island posts. And I'm gonna give this a class of maybe some spacing in between. Let's see what we have. If we go to the root, okay, nothing, not a whole lot has changed, but we have a horizontal ruler here, and everything that gets rendered in posts in the post component will be rendered over here. Let me just maybe add like a title here to sort of demonstrate that. So
Posts.
All posts. Yes. All right. We're gonna dream about posts a lot tonight because I've said it many times already.
Yeah, but it's okay.
Yeah. All right. So what we're gonna do now is, and this is like the built-in RPC feature. So what we're gonna do is like infer the types of what is being returned here from this API endpoint, right? So we say we get at the root of the root of this file, meaning API/API/post, we will get this data structure, and we want to infer that leveraging the RPC functionality of Hono. What we have to do for that is basically chain the API constructor, or we need to chain all methods that are applicable to this API. We need to chain that to one single instance. And let me just demonstrate you. Okay, so we're gonna do it like this. And then we say export type is API type, is type of API. So what happens here is we create a new Hono instance, and then we chain the method directly to it. And this allows Hono to construct like types that we can use in our front end. So if we look at the API type, we see that it's doing some special stuff for us already, and that we're going to use that in our posts application here. So first we're going to import. Let's see. Oh, we're going to import it here. We say API type. Now, the magic here that we're going to execute is creating a client based on these types. So we say Honc's client is HC, stands for Hono client, and then we insert the API type here. Oh, we need to import this. Oh yeah, we need to. So we pass in the type here that we expect, and then we say API posts over here. And this works in production and in development because we're using like a relative path here. Here you see the same sort of types that we saw earlier, and this allows us to do like really cool stuff. So, for instance, I'm going to keep this. Let's say happy flow, like fetch posts, and then we say this is almost correct. Client index dot get. And now I'm trying to see what's this index, and then we have this getter. I thought we named this post. Yeah. So why? Oh wait, we need to. And then we need to. Let's see. Sorry, I need to.
That's okay. I tried to figure out, but I also haven't. So, what do you know where the error is coming from?
Yeah. So we need to parse this response, right? So first we do a GET request, and then we get some JSON back, meaning we need to return res.json.
And we don't return the post directly.
Now we actually return the posts. So if this promise like resolves properly, then we get like this object with like an array attached to it. So basically we get this this post structure, we get it back. Now we're gonna add like a button here that will fetch the posts for us. Let's see, this is vibe coding.
I mean, but it's really quick in doing it. Well, there is still an error with the post, I think, in line 24, but there we go.
Yeah, so what I did just now is like destructure the result here, but we didn't turn it into JSON yet. So right now, basically this post, and this is happy flow because we're not doing any error handling, we're not doing things that we actually should be doing in the front end. So basically nothing can go wrong in our flow over here. So now we can actually safely like destructure, or at least like according to TypeScript, we can safely destructure the posts here and then set them to state. So if we go to the application, we have this like incredible blue button now, and we can click it, and it will fetch our posts from the backend, which is really cool. So if we do that again, you can see in the console. Let's do that again here. XHR is enabled, so we click this button. It does an API call. It returns OK, and it also the response are those posts that we defined, which is really cool. So this is like in a nutshell RPC. So if we go back to the API, we have some like a data structure set up. We create a Hono instance. We infer the types from the data that we're passing back. We export the type of the API, and then in the front end, we use those types, and then the Hono client helper to make use of whatever this endpoint is doing. So in this case, we have a GET request. I wanted to do like a POST request as well, but I think that's going to take a lot more time to sort of put together. But I can show you in a second the code that I've written before this demo to demonstrate like how you could approach that as well. So yeah, that was actually like a short demo of like how RPC could work in front-end applications in Hono X.
Quick question, Oscar.
Yes.
Because I have you here. Is it also like what happens if I have already maybe schemas defined in Zord or something like that? Would that also work?
Yes, that would also work. And this is, well, it's good that you're asking this because this is exactly for a post request.
The other way around.
Post request. Yeah. So the other way around. So if you want to actually insert something into a database.
If you want to post a post.
If you want to post a post using a post request, yes. Then you can do that. So like
Then I would have either like validation maybe on my API turned on anyhow with Zord, and then do you have the code handy? Are you willing to share?
Yes, I am willing to share. 1 second, I need to. All right, let me share my screen again.
Let me see.
Do we have a visual to infinity? Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, what I did here is we go to posts, in the backend.
That's our root, right? That's the that is the root that we have defined. So okay.
API posts, and then what happens here is you like let's maybe call this your schema or something. If you want to use like validation, which you should especially when you use a front end to put data in your database. In general, you need validation there. So what happens here is like we have the GET request that we went over just now. And then if you have a post request, and this is also happy flow, it's not using any error handling, all that stuff. But we like here you can see the moment you post a post, pun intended, you have this like Zod validator in between. So like basically you pass in like a piece of middleware in here, and then you validate that post. So it like Zod expects JSON here, and then once this like resolves properly, it like will add it to our database. I say database again, and then like on a successful insertion, like it will return the post. So let me spin up this in the server again, and we go to this absolutely amazing app.
It's amazing, yeah. And you've created already something. I see there. You can now say something, and that should be.
Oh, there's a little bug in there, but that's for demo purposes. So I say hello, and I create it, and then let's try that again. Hello again, and I create it. So you see, this one is getting. This is a post request. It's getting inserted into our database. And then basically, returns the array with updated elements, and that's what's being displayed here, which is really cool. And that uses Zod validation. So as you can see here, the get post
that's the front end part, right? So now we move
to the front end part. Yeah. So this is also coming from this is using the Hono client, and then like for the post request. It's quite smart. It can also like infer based on what we defined in the validator here, which is like Zot expects here, this post object, so of an ID and a title, and then you immediately like infer that like over here. There's even like a smarter like helper here that like infers the expected type over here. That's what I just remembered. But this is perhaps also like for another time we can do a honk out to go like a tiny bit deeper into like this aspect. But then yeah, it basically just like it expects this, and if you put in anything else, so over here you see the create post, and if we're going to put in like a string, of course we get like an error because it's not assignable of like the type of ID string, title string. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
That's super cool. Thanks for jumping on the stream again. I don't know if we have mentioned in the beginning that there's also something that we haven't touched today, and it's basically the Vite plugin. I think it exists now for Cloudflare Workers for a while, but today I saw that also Hono includes a start template for getting a project, including the Vite template. I think, Oscar, you need to come again. And
Yes.
The front-end story is never stopping. Because I think that's something we might want to explore now that it's also very prominent. If you start in the CLI a Hono project, you can now choose to have a Cloudflare Vite project that comes as a Cloudflare worker with Vite, like on, I don't know, do you say on top of it or like in it? Yeah, you know what I mean. But yeah, I think that's, and I think there is more to, I think now, like stepping into these options, I feel there is a lot of different ways how you can go around, like going full stack or going with a front end for Hono, which is kind of cool to see that also so many different ways are supported, or many ways are supported. Nice. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Did you have
agreed. I think we should definitely do do more of a deep dive into that one. Also because it comes with some interesting I guess challenges, which is also being talked about in the Hono Discord. But it's great to see that this Vite plugin is definitely moving forward, and it has like an incredible amount of potential.
Yeah, I feel, well, I think I saw also a lot of projects using it initially, like when they start thinking of, oh, I want Hono with something on top, like a front end. I saw a lot of people thinking directly, like using Vite, which is cool. And so it's cool that this plugin now comes into Hono in the template. Well, but we are almost at the end of the time. We don't want to go over 30 minutes. That is kind of the promise of the stream. But I think that gives us the potential maybe to say next week it's Vite plugin. Let's see. But yeah, Oscar, thanks for joining. I don't know if you have something to add before I press the red button to end the stream.
Nothing to add. Thanks
Cool.
everyone for watching.